Here I am again with another question of the day. Because nothing, not a single fucking thing in the United States makes sense, okay? So let me just go through a couple scenarios with you, okay? So, um let's start with that Constitution, okay? Which is supposed to be the founding doctrines of all laws combined, okay? Whenever they have a question, they must refer back to the Constitution, the founding doctrine of this country, okay? Which says that every person, regardless of their origin, has the right to their own personal property, okay? And there's a reason why that was established that way, because if you open up the doors to allow people to take what's rightfully somebody else's property, it really makes all your criminal laws obsolete surrounding theft, okay? So the government can't take your personal property, because in doing so, once they're allowed to take personal property, then they have to mark each and every law throughout every state, under every jurisdiction, related to theft. They have to mark it obsolete, okay? They have to. If it has occurred once, twice, three times, even a one-time occurrence where the government steps in and does not fairly pay you for the value of your property, they just take it and do as they please with it, that's theft, because there's no compensation. And when it comes to personal property for the most part has no true value in the eyes of the beholder, okay? Meaning the government. They might get their jollies on taking things from you, but in all reality, the eyes of the holder, such as the person that held their family picture for, I don't know, 50 years, let's say, that's a legacy to be carried on to other family members, that is priceless, meaning you can never put a price tag on that item, okay? It doesn't matter how much money you are willing to pay in compensation for the destruction or the taking and the carrying forth of an item such as that. There is no true dollar amount that could ever, ever, ever replace that photo of your family, okay? So the theft, when you take something that is not truly yours, it is a criminal offense. I like to refer back to the Book of Thieves. Good luck finding that book, but it does exist. Now, let's take this a few steps further, okay? Here's how I'll use myself once again as an example, because I know I'm not the only one that has gone through this and is living through it, because you can't put your life back in order. There's no possible way. So in my situation, it was almost like a planned out event holistically all the way around. It started with flooding in my basement, and then a few months later, I get this. While I'm combating the issues at home, I get an email from my landlord where I was renting an office space for my business, my only source of income. And he gives me like a 2-week notice I got to get out. And in the process of trying to get my things out, my keys just disappeared. I don't know if they got locked into the building, if they fell out of my pocket. I could not find them to get back into the building on that given day to get the rest of my property. And so I sent him an email, which oddly, he claims it was a year later. Oh, I just saw this email that said what happened, and I need to get the rest of my stuff out of my office space per your request. So he ended up with my server, all my data, a computer, all kinds of records, my phone system, very, very expensive phone system. He got it all, okay? And so I tried to do a police report saying, he's got my property and he's not responding to the email, which he claims a year later, oh, whoops, he came across it in his inbox. They wouldn't do a police report for me so I could make a claim with my business owners and my business insurance, my liability insurance, because they said it was a civil matter. And when I went to my insurance company, they said that they couldn't do the claim without a police report. So I got caught in this catch-22 bullshit and lost everything that was remaining in the building, okay? Then fast forward, so now I have no way to complete. He has all my information, my equipment, everything used, not only to run my business, but to report my taxes and other things, okay? Even collect outstanding dollars. He had it all. And I was caught in this situation where my insurance company wasn't helping me, local law enforcement wasn't helping me, and I was just standing there in the middle going, where the fuck do I turn here? Obviously, I have no money to retain an attorney to carry forth some civil action against my landlord. And so, even after paying for business liability insurance, which was supposed to protect me in all these situations, it didn't protect me, okay? Almost like I came to the conclusion that I must be some pawn in a pretty large poker game, okay? Me and my kids. So here it is. Fast forward 4 years, okay? And I had been working with the Department of Taxation for the state and with the Internal Revenue Service, trying to somehow map out, like put together the pieces so that I could do my tax filings for that year in which the events occurred, and then the years rolling forward. And they had marked everything down as, fraud, identity theft and fraud, because all my information was taken from me. And they said, take your time, piece it together, call us if you have any questions, I'm on the phone with them, keeping them abreast of what I'm trying to do. I'm just missing this piece of information. I'm trying to figure out how I can obtain this piece of information that I'm good for this year. Then I can do this for this year. And then I can do this, Okay, keep working on it. Keep us up to date on what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. I had everything put together for the year in which the events had occurred. I had even bought the software so I could do it all myself. And then what happened? Livingston County, New York, had people come in and just scoop up everything in my home, put it in these containers, and it all went bye-bye. And to this day, I have not been notified where all that stuff went. So, I'm sitting there going, what do I, here it is. Fast forward 9 years. I'm going into the 9th year and I cannot put my life back together. I can't do it. There's no fucking possible way. They took everything from me. There's nowhere to begin. There's no place to go. There's like nothing out there that says, we can help you. We can help you, put the at least the foundation back somehow. So I keep revisiting my business. I really, really liked what I did. I created a little niche of a business for myself. It was tailored to what I was able to do, my capabilities. Nothing, like far-fetched way out there that, like some great big ballooned idea that, would eventually get me into some huge, trouble as far as, expanding myself beyond my own capabilities. But it was just tailored to my expertise. And I really liked what I did. So I'm like reviewing, I'm still trying to put my life together. It's never going to go back together. And there's no fucking way in hell, okay? It's like it's over. And so I'm doing a cursory review on my business that's just, like still sitting out there in like fragments of pieces, like trying to change the, update information as I see it and all that stuff. And I see, I have a, I have a state tax warrant sitting out there collecting interest. And the thing that blows my mind is as soon as all this shit happened, I crafted a letter immediately and sent a letter to the Internal Revenue Service, and I sent one to the New York State Department of Taxation saying, this is what just happened. I have no clue how I'm supposed to do all these things now that I don't have all the information for my business that I used to have. It's gone. It's out of my hands. People just took it. And the Internal Revenue Service has, I have to give them like, a pat on the back because they have constantly sent, we're still reviewing, we're still investigating, blah, 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 what had happened. And we'll keep you informed. They send me those letters on a regular basis. So, it's like they're actively trying to figure out on their end what the heck. I was religious on reporting every quarter and always did every one of my, even the things people forget to do, I never forgot to do because that was my business. I loved it. And then all of a sudden, boom, I don't have the information to even complete a report. So, what do I do? All I can do is send you a letter of explanation and there's nothing I can do at this point. Pray for some fucking miracle that's never going to happen. So I had sent the same letter to the state of New York, and they actually backed off. They had originally, what they do is if you don't file your taxes, they use your previous tax returns and they come up with this estimate for that year. And then if you don't pay the estimate, they put a warrant out there for you, a tax warrant. Well, I had those tax warrants reversed, and now all of a sudden they reappear out of fucking nowhere. And it's like I had all that documentation where, you know, the letter that I sent them explaining everything, how they had assessed me, uh, then they turned around and they reversed it all because I provided them with the explanation and supporting documentation on what happened. Now all of a sudden it shows up again for the same years. Blows my mind. And it's like, so, but I already sent that to you, but unfortunately I no longer have that documentation, okay? Where you reversed it and I had, you know, I was piecing everything together to even give a half-assed return to you with, you know, to the best of my ability. And so I recently had this conversation with this girl, and she was really, really upset. And I don't blame her at all. She said she was late on her rent payment for a storage unit, and she's homeless. And she said, you know, she's crying, and she said, you know, they're auctioning off my stuff. You know, I tried to buy some time. They, you know, they assessed her some late fees and some interest and all this other shit. And, you know, as much as she's trying to get caught up on the one payment, she's never going to get caught up on it because she's not earning enough money. And now the late fees and the interest, and it's compounding, and she just, you know, anyways, they took her stuff. And, you know, they're auctioning it off, okay? And she's crying and she's upset because she had her mother's ashes in there. And she had, you know, her family photos, her scrapbooks, her all the stuff like I had in my house. And you know, things that really, really mean something to her personally, and they're going to just auction it off to some random individual who's going to end up with all her personal information, her personal identity, and with all these illegals that are coming into the country, and, you know, now they're, you know, blessed by the United States to remain as is. How easy is it for them to buy one of these storage units where there's somebody's identity in it, where they can just scalp that information and carry themselves forward as that person? So none of the shit that the United States does regarding theft, general theft, identity theft, like, please mark these fucking laws obsolete. If you are the instigator allowing all this shit to happen first and foremost, and they are, the government is the worst of the worst of the worst. You know, they're bullying, they're pushing people around, interfering in their everyday life, not cutting anybody a break on anything. And then they expect you to somehow jump around in all these hoops and, you know, over all these great big fences and everything to do all these magnificent feats of, you know, let's see them, you know, it's like a fucking joke. Let's see the circus act in motion. And just when they think they're going to make it through the obstacle course that we set out for them, we're going to trip them up. That's how they are. You cannot take strip them completely like they did me of my identity. I don't give a fuck if I do have a New York State driver's license. That's not my identity. Okay? That's just some fucking requirement that you put out there so that I could ride freely on the roads. That is not my fucking identity. My identity was packed up in all those boxes from my childhood moving forward, things that I could connect to and that I could relate to remind myself that I was here, that I meant something somewhere along the line, That's my identity. Not something, not a bunch of boxes that can be put in a little crate somewhere and then sold off to the highest bidder. That is in itself, that's an illegal act. That is identity theft. And that's how they transfer identity from one person to the next legally under all these little bodies of government. It's such a fucking farce. Everything to do with the United States of America is such a fucking farce. None of it makes sense. There's no common sense to anything they do. There's no rationality behind anything that they do. None of it fucking makes sense. Why put a law on the books that prohibits and protects people from identity theft and, prohibits people from stealing people's identity, but then you let the sheriff come in and clean somebody's house out, put all that shit in a storage container and auction it off, and it has all that person's identity and more. Other people's identity in with that personal identity. Because all my business records were there. I had my clients' information in there. So they just sold off all of our collective. And I'm not liable for that fucking shit. I was safeguarding all that stuff. I had it behind locked fucking doors. And they just walked right in, smashed through the door, took it all. Because they're the little bodies of government that can do that fucking shit. I would really love to. I think about this fucking shit every day of my life. I would love to walk into one of those fucking judges' house and just scoop every fucking thing up. I'd like to take it right in their own backyard and fucking light a fire to it. There you go. Now carry yourself forward. See how you're going to pick up the pieces and move forward with your life. That's what they did to me. They did it to my daughter. It makes me fucking sick. And now I hear from my friend that they did it to her. It's a legal act of that's the legal way of transferring other people's identities into the hands of illegals. That's the legal way. So my question of the day is, now that we know we are not protected by any laws in this country whatsoever against identity theft, don't you think we ought to mark that one obsolete too?